to another segment of What's for Tea with Tracey. Hope everyone's having a great week. We're having shepherd's pie today. It's really easy to do. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cooking the mixture for the shepherd's pie in here for 40 minutes. And then after that's done cooking for 40 minutes, we're going to put it in the baking tray, put mashed potatoes on it and chuck it in the oven for another 20 minutes. If you've got more time, you can cook it longer, like if it's on the weekend and you've got more time, you can cook it as long as you like. Okay, so all we need to do is we get 3 sticks of celery, 2 carrots, 2 tomatoes and 1 onion. And we'll cut those up and put it in the pot and stick it on. Okay, here we go. So here we go with the tomatoes. We'll just chuck them up. Chuck it in the pot and then we'll turn the pot on. And we will cook those till they're for about 3 or 5 minutes before we add in the mince. And it's 1 kilo of mince. Okay. So, have you been reading any good books lately, Carolyn?
I've been reading lots of books lately.
Lots of books. You actually put me onto an author that I'm starting, Sarah Barry, and it's Hunter's
Ridge series.
Hunter's Ridge, yeah. So I got the first book yesterday, and I started reading, and it's actually quite good. Mm. So how many books in that series is there?
There's 3 that are particularly in that series.
Yeah.
And then there's some more that come later that have characters from the early books.
So it's good to start reading it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And we just got the first book in lately, didn't we?
Yeah.
For the very first series. So I'm just going to start reading that. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be really good. So we're going to cut up our carrot as well. And I mentioned last week a book that I had finished reading called The Mothers. And I don't know if I told you the first name of the author is Genevieve Gannon. She's an Australian author and it was a really good book. Couldn't put it down. And Sarah Barry's Australian too, isn't she, Caroline?
She is, yes.
Yeah, so there you go. So we'll cut up our carrot. This is really nice shepherd's pie. I love the shepherd's pie. It's really nice the next day too for lunch. Really easy to do, feed for all the family. It's really good, I love it. Chuck in our carrots. So you just simmer it for about 40 minutes, or if I said, and we're going to cut up our celery too. And as I said, if you've got a little bit longer, you can keep it on the stove as long as you like. Like if you make it on the weekend, you know, you can simmer it for as long as you like and then just chuck it in your baking dish with your mashed potatoes. I love celery. It's one of my favourite veggies. I use it in everything. What about you, Carolyn? Do you like celery?
I do.
Oh, I don't know. It just puts a really nice flavour in everything you cook. Like everything I cook and I put celery and I don't know what it is. It's just, and I love the smell of it. Oh, I love the smell of celery.
It actually makes me sneeze when I buy it. When it's got the leaves on.
Oh, really? Mm. Oh, that's interesting.
And it used to make my dad sneeze too, so I obviously got it from him.
From him, so I wonder what it is about the leaves that make you sneeze. Is it just the leaves?
Just the leaves. Yep.
That's weird, isn't it? I've never heard that before.
I'm special.
You are special, and Carolyn will be something really special that I want to show you. We're going to be cooking something out of that. I'm going to go through it. It's her grandma's recipe book. Look at that. Can you imagine that? Couldn't believe it when she brought it in. Look, all these old recipes handwritten from papers. Like, how good's that? Oh, I love stuff like that when you find it. And then she also put in an Old Woman's Weekly cookbook. So I'm going to go through that and maybe in the next couple of weeks cook something from that as well. All right, 1 onion. I'm going to run it under cold water. So once we put in the onion, we'll put in our oil and then we'll fry it and then we'll add the meat and then just simmer it. And add our other ingredients, which is a can of tomatoes, some stock powder, Continental, some beef stock powder and Bonox. We put all that in and that gives it all the flavour.
Could you use Vegemite instead of Bonox?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can use Vegemite. I've got Vegemite at home. Vegemite is really good as a beef stock. If you don't have Bonox, tablespoon of Vegemite or whatever you want. What I usually do, you know, halfway through cooking, I do a little taste test, and then if I need to, I add a little bit more beef stock powder. You can also, if you wanted to, I'm not going to do this today, but when I do my savoury mince, I add tomato sauce. That's another little tip. Okay, we'll chuck the onion into the pot as well.
My mum used to add tomato sauce to everything.
Oh, did she?
Yep, she loved sauce.
It's actually really good flavour. I find it's really good when you add it into like savoury mince or beef stews. Like
she would add it to her gravy as well.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Oh, to her gravy?
And then she would have sauce and gravy.
Oh my God. All right, we're going to start. Here we go. We're cooking on a gas cooker today because the electric one's a little bit naughty. So we'll just stir that till it heats up. We'll just put a little bit of oil in.
Does it matter what kind of oil?
No, any oil. Doesn't matter. Any oil that you've got around is not a problem. You just cook it for about 3 to 5 minutes. What I normally do while I'm waiting for it, I'll just put the lid on it to create a little bit of a steam thing for a minute. So 1 kilo of mince, it makes a really good shepherd's pie. Like it's really good. You have lots of leftovers, and we put it in the baking tray, just our normal baking tray like that. And then why that's simmering for 40 minutes, 20 minutes. I'll put the potatoes in the microwave and I'll cook them, and then I'll mash them up, ready to go on top of the minced meat. But before we put the mashed potatoes on the mince, we cool it down for about 5 minutes. So here it's sizzling. Carolyn wants to come over and you can have a look at the veggies just cooking there. It's just to soften them a little bit before you add the mince in, that's all. All right, so I'll let Carolyn come over here. Now that's been cooking, you can see how the tomatoes sort of mushing around, getting softened, and the celery. Because we're simmering it for 40 minutes, it's going to cook the stuff anyway, so it's going to go in the oven. But like as I said, if you want to cook it longer, for a couple of hours on the stove, if you make it on the weekend, like for a Saturday night tea or Sunday night tea, you can do that. It's just that we're doing a quick version of it because you might want a shepherd's pie and you could be coming home from work and you just think to yourself, I want something really quick. So this only takes about an hour. Beef mince, regular beef mince, which was hard to get for a little while, but now there seems to be plenty of it around, hey?
Yep, the butchers are back full.
Butchers are back. You can get it from your supermarket, or Carolyn gets hers from your butchers, don't you? Goodness.
I do, yes.
So if Carolyn comes over, and this is what you do, you just mix the mince through like this. See how I'm mixing all the veggies through the mince? Because I'm browning it before I add all my other ingredients. Kids love this too. And it's a good way to hide veggies. If you want to hide veggies, get your grater and grate them into the mince because I'll never know. Good way to hide veggies. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put the lid on it and cook it for about till it's brown, which takes about 5 minutes, and then after that we'll come back and have a look at it. Okay, so it's been cooking for about 5 to 6 minutes with the lid on it, so it should be brown now. So we'll take the lid off. We'll get Carolyn to come on over. She can have a look, and we'll have a look at it. Now see how it's brown and it's created its own juices. Now it's ready to add the other ingredients. Okay, so first of all we'll add some tablespoon of Bonox. You get that from the supermarket. It's a beef extract stock. And as Carolyn said, if you don't have that, you can add Vegemite. So 1 tablespoon of that. Okay. Stir that through. See how it's changing the look of the meat now? Okay, now we'll put our can of tomatoes in, of diced tomatoes, our can of diced tomatoes, chuck that in, and we'll stir that. Carolyn come over, you'll see how it's changing the texture of the thing. Okay, now we'll put one, I go by feel, but I know 1 tablespoon of beef stock, Continental beef stock. Go. And then 1 tablespoon of other stock. Here we go. And that's it. So what we'll do is we'll stir that and we'll bring it to the boil. And before we bring it to the boil, we add a little bit of water. Just add by feel, if you know what I mean. I've just got some water here, so we'll just pour this in. Carolyn comes on over, I'll show you what, because you don't want it too runny. Just stir that in. So that's about a 1/4 cup of water. Just see the consistency here. You just put it up. You don't want it because it's, yeah, that's about right, the consistency of that. So we're going to bring that to the boil. Carolyn, come over here so you can watch it come to the boil, and you'll see it'll make like a gravy and everything will come up to the top. See how it's turning brown? That's the flavour going through the meat. Boil. And then once it brings to the boil, what we'll do is we will turn it down low and simmer it for 40 minutes. See, it's not too runny. And you simmer it uncovered, because if you put the lid on it, it will create more water or more liquid. Okay, so that's we've brought to the boil. Okay, we'll turn the gas down to low. Okay, so we'll simmer that for 40 minutes, uncovered. In the meantime, I will peel the potatoes. I'll put them in my microwave dish. As I said last week, I do the potatoes in a couple of weeks ago, potatoes in the microwave. I will put 4, well, I've got 5, this one's small. So 4 potatoes, cooked and mashed, that goes on top of the shepherd's pie. So we'll see you back here in 40 minutes when we put everything together. See you then. So mixture's been cooking for about 40 minutes. If Carolyn wants to come over, she can show you what it looks like, the consistency. I'll just get my spoon. So that's what it looks like now. We're going to put it in our baking tray. Just pour it in here, like that. So we'll let that cool down. We're going to mash the potatoes. We'll wait for about 5 minutes before we put the potatoes on top of the shepherd's pie, because if it's hot, it sort of meshes together. So I'm going to get the potatoes out. How's it smell, Carol?
Smells pretty good.
Okay, there's our mashed potatoes. As I said last time we had mashed potatoes, I do it with a mix master. Well, what do you call it? A blend? I call it a hand beater.
Yep.
Mix master is when it's
That's the stand mixer.
stand, yeah. So I'll put that. Okay, that's enough. And just milk, it's just by feel sort of thing. I think what everyone who knows, just get Carolyn to come over and have a look how much milk I've put in it. It's just by feel, isn't it, really? Like once you start mashing, if you need a little bit more milk, you know, you can just put it in. Okay. Okay. Carolyn wants to come over, see how easy this is. How easy is that, hey?
So easy.
Now, see, if you go like that, that's the consistency that you want. So not too runny, they're not going to fall out. Sort of like, I suppose, when you're making a pavlova. You know, when you get the stiff and then you can turn the bowl upside down. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait a couple of minutes for this to cool down. Then we're going to come back, we'll put our potatoes over the mixture. We'll chuck it in the oven for 20 minutes and we're good to go. So I'll see you soon. Okay, it's been 5 minutes, so the mince is cooled down and so is the potato, so it's not too hot to put together. Now what we're going to do is, I should have said it at the beginning, preheat the oven to 180 degrees and we cook it for 20 minutes. So we'll just assemble it now. So this is what you do. You just go like this. You do it like a little sculpture. I'll get my wooden spoon and then I'll just spread everything out.
If you were fancy schmancy,
Hey,
could you put it in a piping bag and pipe it on top?
you could if you were going to be fancy pantsy about it, but I don't have a piping bag. And I is fancy pantsy. You could see how I'm just slowly. It doesn't have to be a big covering, just to cover the mince, just like that. We probably could have maybe done an extra potato this time, so it's just a bit of hit and miss. So this is our shepherd's pie. Maybe I should have cooked an extra potato. You just don't know.
Well, doesn't matter.
Not to worry. If you want to cook an extra potato, maybe make it 5 instead of 4. Then you'll get it. Okay, so our shepherd's pie has been in the oven for 20 minutes now, so we're going to bring it out and sit here and wait a couple of minutes before we cut it and serve it. Look at that, Carolyn.
Yum.
Looks really good. We're just going to wait a little minute before we cut it, just so it's not sloppy. So while I do that, I just wanted to tell you what we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be doing chicken paella. It sounds fancy-pantsy, but it's really, really easy. For the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing some recipes that the girls that I work with, some of their favourite recipes, like I'm going to do a recipe out of Carolyn's Nan's book that we're going to do. I think it's a beef one. I'm going to do apricot chicken. That is one of the girls that works here recipe. That's Karen's recipe. So if there's any recipes that you would like to share with me and like to see me cook here for What's for Tea for Tracey, just send me some in and I'll be more than happy to do it. So if you've got a few favourite recipes that you would like me to cook and share with everybody out here, I'd be more than happy to cook them. So if you want to, that would be really good. Okay, so we've waited a little minute, so we're going to cut our shepherd's pie. There's no easy way to serve this, is there, Carolyn?
No, just slop it on.
Just slop it on. So this is live. Okay, so we're going to try to make it look, you know, presentable, but we're just going to slop it on, right? So here we go. We're doing a good job.
Perfect job.
So here we go, that's our shepherd's pie. Get a little bit out. And even though it doesn't look like, you know, restaurant quality, that's our shepherd's pie, homemade, and that's What's for Tea with Tracey. So don't forget to join us next week at 5 o'clock when I'm making chicken paella. And don't forget, if you've got any recipes you'd like to share, send them to me. Have a lovely week, keep safe, and take care of each other. Bye.